Alright, what's going on, guys? Okay, essential movements. Today is the jab. Okay, so all the punches have nuances and there's different ways to throw them, but the jab probably most of all, okay? So you want to have a really varied jab. You just don't want to have the same tempo, the same power on your jab every single time. It's too predictable, right? You've got to be unpredictable. So having a good jab is part of that because it's going to allow you to set the pace, control the distance a little bit better if you have a good jab. And yeah, just overall, you can use it to attack, defend, you can use it going forward, backwards. So it's very versatile. So you just don't always want to be throwing this power jab at the same speed, same tempo every time, right? Someone's going to easily pick up on that. Okay? So to learn these movements, we're going to start squared up, just like all the other volumes of this series. We start squared up because we want to learn the movement first. We want to get comfortable with it. We want to find our balance from this stance, just completely squared up. And then when we start moving around, you know, we'll get in our regular stance that we normally would use, and it's going to feel more balanced. The motion's going to feel more coordinated because you're tying your hands and feet together a lot more from this stance, okay? You're finding your balance. So, starting completely square, we're going to start shifting our weight, okay? Volume 1, the weight shift. If you haven't seen that video, make sure you watch that video. This weight shift motion is very important because everything is based off of this, right? Your punches, your steps, your head movement, right? Everything comes off of this weight shift. And it's something that's really hard to learn from your normal stance. It seems like people have a hard time learning it, right? But when you learn it from this squared up position, it's really easy. And then you'll notice you'll start not having to think about it and it'll just happen in your regular stance. So we're shifting our weight. See? From my hips, my head leans with the direction of my weight. That's an exaggeration. It's much more subtle. There we go. Do these little shuffle steps too if you want. But for now, we're just going to stay stationary. So I'm shifting my weight, and I'm going to shift it over to one leg, and I'm going to keep my weight over this leg. And then what I'm going to do is this kind of running in place motion. If I exaggerate this motion, you'll see. Right? It's kind of up and down almost. I'm bending my knee on my standing leg, my trailing leg. You know, you could pick it up off the ground if you needed to, but really, you know, that's just for demonstration. So make that motion much smaller. And what you're going to do, you're going to bring your hands up, and from that motion, you're going to use that little weight flick. So it's not just running in place. I'm kind of flicking my weight up and out from the hip, right? So you just kind of flick your weight. You don't bring your weight back to the other leg. You don't even bring it to the center. It goes towards the center, then it comes back, okay? So get this motion. I'm going to use that to kind of flick your arm out. So I'm trying to time this punch with the tap of my foot on this leg. Boom, boom, boom. Right? So of course, the whole point of practicing from this squared up position is to be balanced and coordinated, so we want to practice our other arm as well. So I do the same thing, shift my weight over here, do the running in place, and then once I'm comfortable with that, I start flicking these jabs out, straight from the shoulder, right? Boom, my arm's going straight out. It kind of hits the end of my punch at the same time this foot taps. Okay? So that's the traditional jab. That's normally thrown from the back foot. So when we start moving around in our stance, right, the back foot means my weight is slightly back. Not in the middle, not on the front foot, not on the front foot here. My weight stays slightly back. And I flick with that same kind of motion. I have a little step. So lead foot and the jab hit at the same time. Boom, boom, boom. Okay? So I'm flicking my weight forward. I stay on the back foot. My weight is still slightly back. I push it, I flick my weight forward a little bit. So I'm just about, about to the center, trying to go too forward. And that's the motion that makes my arm snap out, right? So there might be a little hip kind of flick as well. But that's the idea, okay? That's the traditional jab. It's usually thrown from the back foot, okay? So, there's another jab, right? You can jab off the front foot, right? This is what you see Tyson use a lot. It's Mike Tyson's kind of jab, right? He fights really squared up. He's moving forward, off the front foot, and he throws jabs from this position, okay? So the same concept. So I shift my weight to my right leg, but instead of flicking out my left hand, which would be my jab, I'm gonna do my right hand. So this running in place, boom, boom. Okay? So you can adjust your stance to find the balance. So this one, once you shift your weight for this one, because this is a front foot position, your back leg might need to come back a little bit so you have good balance. But the same concept, right? Okay, this is a right-handed jab. Weight goes to the right leg, shift my weight, flick my weight upwards, boom, right? So there's a little twist in my hips, twist in my shoulders for this one, okay? Same thing off this leg. Shift to my left leg. My right foot might need to be a little bit behind, just maybe like 3 or 4 inches. Maybe the toes lined up with the heel in this position. Shift my weight here. Got my running in place. Now this is a left jab. Right? So it's an upward motion with a twist. Right? So, now when I get in my stance to throw this jab, I lean forward on the front foot. Back foot, front foot. Okay? So you got back foot jab. Boom, 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 boom. Front foot. Okay? Okay. So you got back foot jab, front foot jab. Okay? So you're going to want to practice these from your normal stance as well as southpaw, okay? After you practice them square, start moving around, right? Practice on both stances so you get more coordinated, okay? All right. So another type of jab, very common, is the up jab, right? So this one starts from a arm down position and you flick your arm up. So it can be called a flicker jab. Usually is referring to this kind of punch as well, because it comes from a flicking motion. But it's also called an up jab because it comes from an upward angle, right? This front foot jab is sometimes also called an up jab. So, right, don't worry too much about the names of these things, right? Just learn them, call them whatever you want. But to me, this is a front jab, or I'll call it an up jab sometimes too. It doesn't matter, right? But this up jab, flicker jab, this one's a back foot, arm down, comes from below the opponent's field of vision, right? He can't see it because it's coming from below. Boom, you snap it up. The power in this punch comes from the speed, right? Keeping your arm relaxed like that gives you a lot of speed. But it's also from the form, the structure behind the jab, right? It's usually thrown from an arm down position, meaning I'm probably more bladed. So if you look, the structure here, boom, I got a very strong structure. I got my feet are set diagonally, right, angled. So I got good power going into the punch like this, okay? So you don't really muscle this punch. It comes from the form, from the steps, from your arm being relaxed, the snap on the punch, and just the little weight shift into it, okay? So to practice this one, you know, you stand square, start with your weight shift. When I shift my weight, boom, boom. When I shift my weight over here, same kind of motion as before, right? I just do this little upward jogging in place, but I bring my arm up, other way, boom, 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 okay? Then we start moving around, arm low, boom, other way, okay? That's the flicker jab, traditional flicker jab, or up jab, or sometimes even called a snap jab, okay? Okay, so another type of flicker jab, I call these flicker jabs as well because I don't really know what else to call them, maybe snap jabs. There's this other kind of jab. It's not the traditional up jab flicker. It's thrown more from your traditional stance, but it's like a Pacquiao jab, right? You see Pacquiao throws these little, almost like back fists. He flicks them out, right? It's from, I'm turning like I'm throwing a right hand, right? I'm not doing my, from the first jab where I step and I'm turning my hips this way, just a slight amount to get power on the shot. It's the other way. It's an outward kind of jab. So you get these from hitting the speed bag, right? I got videos talking about the speed bag and how it helps generate these, how it helps develop these little flicker punches, okay? But you can practice these like this as well. So we get now our squared up stance, right? Now I go to this leg, my head's over my left leg. Now part one, I'd be throwing my jab like this, running in place. Here, I'm gonna have my hand up in my guard, and I'm gonna throw backwards like this. So just like the up jab in the last one, flicker jab here, but I kept my hand up already. Right, this way, same thing this way, this way. So I'm running in place, but when my foot hits, I put my arm out from the elbow, shoulder and the elbow. Right, and this is another one that I like to keep a vertical fist for the most part. Boom, 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 boom. Right, so it's very similar to the last one, the flicker jab from below, where your arm comes up, and it's almost like a backhand, but you land with the knuckles flat, so it's, you know, you don't get in trouble from the ref. Comes up like this, but this one's up from your guard already. Flip, okay? So another way to kind of practice this one is, I got a video talking about the 1-2. Good 1-2 is basically two punches with one motion, right? See you guys with a really good 1-2, old school boxers, and they throw that boom, boom, Joe Louis style. You kind of flick out the jab, and then you get the two for free, right? So if you square up like this, you're gonna turn and just let your arms fly out naturally with the weight shift. When you shift your weight, you add a big kind of hip turn as well with this weight shift. Let your arms fly out. Now if I go one direction, go back, right? And that's where you get these kind of flick jabs that make a really good 1-2. Right? Turn your hips. So you turn your hip for the 2, and and you get that kind of flicker, that little distraction jab for free. Okay? Okay. Next we have the power jab, or the stiff jab, or stick jab. Okay? Whatever you want to call it. This is just the same thing as that standard jab, the first one we showed, but you just take a little bit more of a drop step. You step a little bit more, you sink your weight a little bit more, and you just get a little bit more power into the punch, okay? So to practice this one squared up. Just like from the first demonstration, you practice this one squared up. You get over here and the running in place. But you're just adding a little bit more kind of pop on the end of it. You can even get a little bit wider when you're practicing this one, okay? So basically, I mean, this one's hard to practice from that squared up position because you can't really tell the difference. You're not really stepping, right? You're just twisting more and throwing your weight a little bit more, but practice it on the bag. You know, you have heavy bag, stationary bag, whatever. You just okay. So just like the regular jab off the back foot. So it's almost like fencing, right? My weight kind of flicks forward, but for this one, boom, I add a bigger step. Boom. Boom. And you can keep your arms extended, right, for a split second longer, almost like a stiff arm, right? It'll add a little bit more power, and if he tries to move forward after that, you know, you're almost like a stiff arm for a second, and it'll feel way stronger, especially, you know, if it hits him in the chest or something. It'll have more pop, okay? Okay, so that's the power jab. All right, now a variation on the power jab is the jolt, okay? This is from Jack Dempsey, right? He talks about the drop step, the trigger step. It's basically using gravity to add power into your punches, right? So you got the weight shift, you got your hip turn, then you can use this drop step or trigger step, right? So those are other essential movements. There's other essential movements videos talking about those, okay? But the jolt punch, his thing for the jolt punch is that keep the fist vertical, and you're gonna land with the 3 knuckles, okay? So I'll probably have to do a video about the 3 knuckle landing eventually, but different punches, you land different punches differently, right? If you're throwing a hook to the body, think about it, you probably are not aiming with the 2 traditional knuckles that they tell you to land a punch with, a straight punch with, right? You're probably landing more with the 3. So in Jack Dempsey's book, Championship Fighting, he talks about you aim with the ring finger knuckle. That's the one you want to land with, so that the 3 knuckles land flat. They land strong and flat, okay? And cool thing about this punch is it works well punching up. You can throw a straight punch upwards. If you're trying to land with the 2 knuckles, I can only, I can go up maybe here before I end up landing on my fingers, right? With this vertical fist, I can punch upwards. I throw a straight punch up and land with the 3 knuckles, which a lot of times to me feels like a stronger landing anyways. It depends on the punch, depends on where my hands are, but it really depends on the punch, which knuckles I'm aiming for, right? And these smaller bag gloves help me really feel that out. And I'm using the bob, which is softer than a regular heavy bag, so it feels weird to use big boxing gloves on the bob. So I like to use smaller gloves, and it helps me really get a sense of how I'm landing my punch. Okay, so the jolt punch is basically pretty similar to the power jab, but you're gonna keep your fist vertical landing with the 3 knuckles, okay? Okay? Bigger step, boom. Bigger step, more of a weight shift, okay? Right, and I can punch upwards. And I'm landing on the chin with this vertical knuckle position, landing with the 3 knuckles, right? But landing, you know, it's very similar to the power jab. But again, it's just more of a vertical fist, 3 knuckle landing, and I like to use it. I like to use that when I'm punching up with a straight punch, okay? All right, so the jab to the body, okay? It's a very effective punch. You're aiming for the solar plexus, maybe a little lower, depending on the situation, you know, whatever you can get, but typically right in the solar plexus, okay? It's gonna drain energy from your opponent, okay? It'll really add up. And a lot of times it's faster than throwing a rear-handed punch to the body, you know, because it's a jab, you don't commit as much, okay? So the hand position for your rear hand, you can keep it here, make sure you get good shoulder protection. So you really push your shoulder out so that it comes up and guards your chin. Or a lot of people, they'll take the rear hand, kind of move it over here like this so that you're less likely to get countered, okay? So you got to be quick with this punch. You got to go in and out, and you know, it's great because now you're changing levels on the guy. He's not only getting jabbed up top, now he's got to worry about getting jabbed down low, okay? So it keeps him guessing. So the basic concept is this. See my feet here. And what I do is I take a step, you know, from my stance, take a big step, and that's what causes me to get low, and then I shoot the jab out like that, okay? So the step is important. Boom. So my shoulder and my arm end up about on the same line, right? I want my shoulder and arm to be about horizontal. That's what gives the jab power. That's what puts the structure behind the punch, okay? So check it out. Okay, right here. And then I kind of shuffle out. So weight shifts, right? My steps come from my weight shifts. When I'm moving around, it's these little weight shifts that are causing me to step. So when I do this jab to the body, right, it's a big step. I take a wider step, boom. It puts more of my weight in motion, boom. That's where the power comes from. And then once I'm here to get out, I shift my weight back and I can shuffle out, okay? You might need to take a little step. So once I'm here and for the weight shift, I can kind of just lean back and shuffle, but your balance is a little compromised for a split second there. If I take a little step with my back foot first, just a little step, then the shuffle feels a little bit more balanced, but that's just, you know, that's a real kind of minute detail that you'll get the feel for once you practice it. You know, you're gonna have to practice this punch a lot. But keep in mind that big step is what causes me to get low, right? So I'm using more of a more skeletal structure than muscle, right? If I just squat down low, like I'm using a lot of leg muscle there. If I just take a big step, I get low automatically, and it feels a little bit more, it feels like I'm not using as much muscle. It feels a little more strong, a little more easy It's just not so much of a squat, I guess, okay? So it's that step, gives me that jab. And then to get out, you shift your weight back and use that momentum to kind of shuffle you out of range, okay? All right. Now the next punch, this is a very, this one is cool and you don't see it that often, but this is something every now and then you'll see a real tricky fighter do. I think the most recent time I saw it was Lomachenko used it against Devin Haney at one point, okay?
Told him it is completely legal.
But you see Loma's not moving.
It is completely legal.
But you see Loma.
Now this is the rear hand jab. So my rear hand, typically my straight punch, right? What you can do, you can throw this just like a jab, okay? I call it, it's basically, to me it's a jab. The purpose is the same as a jab. It's more of a distraction than a power punch, okay? So Lomachenko, he's always shifting his weight. He leans in, see, just to get a read what you're gonna do. And then he's back here, then he's in the middle, but he's leaning forward. He's always leaning forward on the front foot, right? So it squares him up, but he's looking to do something off of that. He's gonna counter off of that, okay? But what how you throw this punch is you lean forward on the front foot. Now my right shoulder comes forward more, and from here, he just kind of snapped out a rear-handed jab, okay? So you lean forward and then boom. Maybe you're trying to get him to react so you can counter. Maybe you see he's about to do something. You see his guard open up and then you just snap. And you can roll out or you can snap and follow up with a combo off of that. But you lean forward onto the front foot and it's your back hand to your what would be your power punch. And from this position, that little flick of your weight, flick your weight. Ooh, right? And you just snap it out. Now maybe you lean forward and he doesn't do anything. So then you kind of flick that jab out to probe to see what he's gonna do. And then you can counter or roll out or what you're gonna do after that. But either way, now he's got something to worry about. Now when he sees you lean forward, he's not just worried about power punches. Now he knows that you can throw quick straight rear-handed jab from that position, okay? So try that one out. Okay, one more thing of note with the jab. The cool thing about the jab is it can make you appear faster than you actually are, okay? Because the typical jab that you see thrown in demonstration 1, right, your standard kind of jab, most people are familiar with that and they know how fast a typical person can throw that, right? But when we start talking about these little snap jabs that are almost, they're almost not even a full-bodied punch. You're almost really just kind of snapping from the elbow. You're whipping it out like a towel, okay? So it might have less power, but speed is power. Okay, force is mass times acceleration. So the faster something gets, it gains power from the speed, okay? And the structure behind that punch, right? Your hips are already in a position where when the punch is extended, it's got your full arm behind it, your base behind it, you're using skeletal structure. That's what gives it power, okay? But, okay, like I was saying, you can appear faster than you really are. It makes you seem faster than human, okay? So what you're gonna do is as soon as you touch, you pull it back. That's one way to think of this. Kind of snap jab. I've seen Paulie Malignaggi talk about that. You snap it, it's like the target is hot. So that one doesn't have much power at all, but that would be like he's got his guard up and you snap and you hit his guard with such speed that it might make him think, wow, this guy's really fast. But yeah, you're not going to be able to throw all your punches that fast. This is just kind of the fastest way you can throw your hand is from one of these little flicking kind of motions, okay? But that makes him second guess your speed and your timing, right? You can throw off his timing because now he doesn't know if you're going to be throwing a normal jab, a power jab, or just a flick jab, right? So sometimes it's just about touching his glove with that speed and letting him know that you have that speed, okay? I've been looking for the video, but there was an old video of someone who used to spar with Bruce Lee, okay? And what he was saying is after one of the sparring matches, he asked Bruce Lee, like, how are you that fast? And Bruce was like, I'm not that fast. I'm just making you think I'm that fast, okay? So that's what I think Bruce was doing is he just snaps out some of these, he throws some snapping out type jabs, and it makes the person think like this guy is superhuman fast, okay? But really, there's a speed limit, to how fast you can go. There's some really fast people, but, you can make yourself appear faster than you actually are by doing this, okay? So the idea is you just snap, you don't have to do the thing where you pull back as soon as you hit. That was just a different type of jab that Paulie Malignaggi was showing. But the same concept here where I'm just going to snap at the gloves. Okay? So these snap jabs, they don't have to be at the face necessarily. Sometimes it's just a matter of hitting his gloves, hitting him in the arms, maybe in the chest. And then if you see the opportunity, maybe you can snap one up and hit him in the nose. But it's just giving you the illusion of speed, okay? Okay, so those are some different types of jabs. There's a lot of them. There's probably more. I don't know. Those are the ones I could think of. But so I want to talk about those little snap jabs. These kind of flicker style jabs, right? You got your probing jab, which is really just kind of you stick your arm out, you're gauging distance, right? Nothing too exciting there. It's almost not even a punch. It's just an annoyance, especially if you're fighting a southpaw. You gotta get really good at this kind of hand fighting, throwing these little probing jabs, right? And another cool thing about it is it's a line of defense, right? He'll probably have to push that out of the way. You can feel if he's gonna do something because he's gonna touch your arm, right? You're constantly kind of flicking these little probe jabs out, right? You're controlling the pace. He's got to deal with that before he can move in, right? So you can feel him touch your arm, slap it down, try to move past it, right? It gives you a little better understanding for when he's going to attack, all right? But another cool thing you can do with these is you aim for the eyes. So they don't have to be hard, but you aim for the eyes and they're blinders, right? You constantly, he might shell up, but you're taking away some of his vision every time, right? And it's just these kind of flicking motion, and then every now and then you might snap a hard one in there, but you aim for the eyes, you aim for the nose. They don't have to be hard, but if you slap somebody in the nose with your knuckles, it's gonna hurt, right? His eyes might water. It's gonna take away his vision for a little bit, right? So you can flick these jabs at the eyes, the chin, the nose, right? And that gives you the opportunity to land another punch or move off of that, all right? That's the whole point of they talk about setting things up with the jab. It's not always just throwing a power jab and following up with a combo. It's probing. It's throwing these annoying little flicks. Ooh. So out, the outward flick, flick up, Tyson style. So any position, right? The cool thing about the jab is you can throw it from pretty much any position, moving in any direction, right? Okay. Okay, so try that out. Okay, the last one. This is a you see, Willie Pep does this a lot. Okay, I call it a corkscrew punch or corkscrew jab. So it's he leans his weight really far over, and when you lean really far, your shoulder kind of naturally comes up, and when you throw the punch, you know, your shoulder's already naturally coming up, so you use that momentum to throw out the arm. And because he's leaning so far over, the shoulder comes up, it almost comes upward and then down, kind of like this. Almost, it's subtle, right? And this one I like to land with the 2 knuckles, turn the thumb over, right? I don't fight the arm, I let it do what it wants to do naturally, and that's what it feels like it wants to do. So you see Willie Pep doing it. When he moves his head really low, kind of like that, okay? So I like to aim this one at the chin, at the chest, okay? And he'll throw multiple kind of corkscrew jabs from that position. But that's just an extra one, you know. It's kind of useful, depends. But yeah, like I was saying, be careful because of how it lands. You know, you don't want it to land with your elbow really up like that. You know, I worry about there's not anything behind the punch that lands kind of funky. But if you do it in a controlled manner, it's a decent kind of punch that maybe they're not expecting. Okay, so like the video, sub the channel. That was Essential Movements jab variations. Okay, so see you in the next one. Peace.